Many of you have November circled on your calendar, especially if you're into politics. Here in the South, this week, we have a primary that may just set the tone for how November is going to go. It's the Y'all Show, where we talk all about the South. And Tennessee steps up to the primary plate on Thursday. Volunteer state voters, you're a little behind as we've seen so many other southern states from Texas to South Carolina to even Georgia already decide their primaries, but Tennessee always usually goes in August, and Vol State reporters or Vol State voters are going to have a chance to weigh in. And they've got a governor's race going on in Tennessee, and they've got Senate and congressional races of note to watch out. The reason that we're kind of circling in on Tennessee today is with this Thursday primary. Tennessee is the first, I guess, deep South state that's going to have a primary in this new world we live in, where you've seen the Supreme Court weigh in that you can divide the congressional districts up not by race, as we saw in that case out of Louisiana earlier this year. And Tennessee legislators went to the Hill in Nashville, and you might remember the chaos that ensued earlier in 2026, and a lot of emotion, and some people ended up getting into some trouble, parliamentary wise at least. And Tennessee went through and got it done. And Governor Bill Lee signed it into law. And Tennessee's going to have a new look Congress with new congressional maps. I'm going to show you that in just a second. But let me first show you here on our handy dandy little map here what exactly we're talking about in terms of the elections for this week. So you've got candidates for governor, Senate, and House in Tennessee. Now, Tennessee has a longtime senator. I wouldn't say long time, less than 10 years, but he's a veteran, and that's Bill Hagerty, and he's on the race for U.S. Senate. As you can see, he's got no challengers on the Republican side in Tennessee, but the Democrats are going to be fighting with a couple of names that are somewhat familiar in Tennessee, Marquita Bradshaw and Maria Brewer amongst them, going against Bill Hagerty for the Senate race. But see, if Marsha Blackburn, who's the current senator, wins her governor's race, then there's going to be ultimately some kind of contest for that. But that's a story for another day. We were talking about governor, and if we scroll down here, I'm going to find the governor's race right there. And look at all these names going up for governor. And you've got Democrats going up against possibly Marsha Blackburn, but she's got to win the Republican side. And she's got a real formidable challenger in Jon Rawl. Also, some names like Monty Fritz on the Republican side for Marsha. And so it's not a done deal that she's going to win the governor's race. And again, Governor Lee has been in office since 2018. And Rose, as I mentioned, is a congressman. And Fritz is a state legislator. He's a state rep in Tennessee. So let's just assume Marsha Blackburn wins the Republican side. Then she's likely going to win the governor's race in the general election in November. But some definite challengers to her for this position of governor in the volunteer state. Then there are 9 different congressional races going on. And I can come back to that in a second, but let me first tell you, this is what Tennessee looked like prior to these changes that the Supreme Court brought upon with the elimination of race as a factor in determining congressional races. And you can see that Tennessee is a ruby red state with the exception of the Memphis area. And District 9 on this map is the longtime district held by Steve Cohen, a white guy, by the way. And that was the way this map worked. You had 8 Republican seats and 9 in District 9 there, the lone blue area. Tennessee has a very red state with 3 exceptions: Memphis, Nashville, and then Haywood County, which is in West Tennessee, which would be in Congressional District 8 on this map. But it's a small county. That's where Brownsville is. But that's the way the map did look under Steve Cohen. So they go in and they change the map, and according to what was adopted May 7th, this is the new map of Tennessee, the new congressional districts. And this essentially split up a lot of Shelby County, which is where Memphis is. And you can see in that lower map there, that is the map of just Shelby County. And so what was essentially one congressional district before is now divided up with three different ones. And you can see that they are taking swaths along the Mississippi River to go up into places like Dyersburg and Union City, Republican country, to split up downtown Memphis. And then other parts of the city are with congressional races heading east. For example, the district there that's on the border, that would be the new District 9, goes from essentially Germantown all the way to Middle Tennessee. It looks like Lincoln County and all the way to where Jack Daniel was married, Moore County there in Middle Tennessee with that particular district. And then it shoots up a little bit into really Republican ruby red Williamson County, just south of Nashville. Then you've got that other district, District number 8, which we could call the West Tennessee only district. And that goes from parts of Memphis, it looks like more of the northeast corner of Shelby County, into the aforementioned Haywood County, but also it goes over to Jackson, Tennessee, as well as going toward the Mississippi River with towns like Lexington and up into, let's see, that would be Gibson County on this new map here. So West Tennessee essentially had two congressmen for the last dozen or so years. You had Democrat Steve Cohen in Shelby County. Then you had the Republican that represented parts of Memphis, but he also had a lot of West Tennessee, and that's David Kustoff, who oddly enough lived in Memphis. Oddly enough, David Kustoff and Steve Cohen, who are currently congressmen, are both Jewish. One Democrat, one Republican. But now Tennessee, as you can see, splitting up this congressional contest for this primary this week, and it's going to be fascinating to watch. Now, one reason we're talking about this, and one reason we have a pretty neat little graphic I'm going to pull up here and show you, is there is a very small but possible potential this could backfire on Republicans. And if that happens, Katie, bar the door, because this could happen in a lot of places now that Republicans, starting with Texas, have gone in and shaped legislatures and congressional races to come in their own image. And we've seen Democrat states go in and carve out a lot of Republican seats to try to balance this whole movement. But here's our graphic, and there you have it. There's a chance in Tennessee that there could be a big surprise this week, or really more for November, that this whole plan to have a solid red congressional representation for Tennessee might end up having not just one, but possibly two Democratic seats in the new term of Congress in 2027. Not likely to happen, but it could happen. And if we go back in here and take a look at kind of the way some of these congressional races can shape up here in the next couple of months, it definitely could be that way. Now, it all kind of goes back to Shelby County. And so if we scroll down to here to one of the congressional races that are going on in Shelby County in West Tennessee, I know that that aforementioned right here, District 9 race, has a very competitive Republican primary. You got Charlotte Bergman, a black lady, going up against a state senator. I think he is Brent Taylor, all from the Memphis area. So you're likely to see one of those two win the Republican primary for the Republican side this week in District 9. But on the Democratic side, do you see that name there, Justin Pearson? Now, Justin Pearson is a guy that's been in state government in Nashville. He's a state representative. He is one of the leading hell raisers, if you will, in Nashville. He's the guy with big hair, big afro, and has caused a lot of problems. He got AOC to come to Memphis lately to not only kind of help his campaign out, but also to go against data centers. And that's where you might have seen AOC kind of kicked into a Memphis hood accent there, which was totally fake. But he's got a lot of recognition, and you can bet your bottom dollar people like AOC are going to come back to Memphis and campaign for him if he ends up winning the Democratic primary this week in District 9. That's not a sure thing for Republicans in District 9 with the newly drawn District 9 in Tennessee. And then you've got David Kustoff, I mentioned there on the left-hand side, going to win the Republican side, but that Democratic side for District 8 for West Tennessee also could be quite intriguing and create a real issue for Kustoff in the general election. And then I want to take a look at the Nashville area because Nashville, of course, as I said, is a Democratic stronghold. And on this map, Nashville is divided up between District 6, 7, and, we'll just look at District 6 and 7, for example, on this upcoming deal. Now, I know there's some changes. You've got at least one congressman who's not going to be representing anymore in Washington from this one of these districts. District 7, Republican Matt Van Epps. I think he's the incumbent right now. But on the Democratic side, you've got Darden Copeland and others that are going to be likely to give him a run for the money. Then on that left-hand side, you see District 6 right now, and it's open as Jon Rawl is the current representative for District 6, but we said he's on the ballot for running for governor in Tennessee. So a couple of names there on the Republican side, but the Democratic side may have someone coming out of there like Leibowitz, maybe a real progressive candidate that in a place like Middle Tennessee could find yourself winning. Look, as I said, not likely to happen, but just like the graphic says, we could have a huge surprise in Tennessee with not one representative in blue, but 2 or 3 possibly, if it all backfires. And if it happens in Tennessee, it can happen anywhere, especially places like Texas. So just wanted to talk a little politics with you here. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. The show all about the South. We are the Y'all Show, and we'll have an eye on all this, what's going on, and report back to you. And of course, we'll be here with you all the way up to election time in November when it really gets down to the fun. And we'll see who all can come out of this. Don't forget also that the Y'all Show available on YouTube. Please go there and follow us. And also don't forget that on y'all.com you can see so much stuff about the South. And you can email us, y'allshow@y'all.com, at your pleasure. We would love to hear from you. Till we see you again, thank you for this little election update and a preview of Thursday. That's the big day in Tennessee again. Thursday, August 6th, primary day in the volunteer state. If you're a Tennessean and you're ready to go vote, don't forget to do just that. It's your patriotic duty, y'all. We'll see you here real soon. Thanks for checking us out.